Every woman who walked into his house left looking stunned, like they'd been pulled through a fire and loved every second of it. My roommate and I noticed our eyes glued to the scene across the street, hearts racing with questions we shouldn't ask. So we knocked on his door, and the moment he opened it, we knew he'd been waiting for us. In Savannah, Georgia, the night was heavy, thick with humidity and secrets. I was halfway up the stairs when his bedroom light caught my eye, glowing like a beacon across the street. He wasn't alone. I froze, one hand gripping the banister, the air suddenly too warm. A woman stood by his window, half undressed, her dress slipping off her shoulder like it was a ritual they'd done 100 times. She leaned into him, hands on his chest, while he stood calm, unmoving, like he owned time itself. "Lila," I called, voice low but urgent. "You need to see this." She shuffled in, wrapped in a blanket, hair messy from the couch, grumbling but curious. "What?" I pointed, not looking away, my pulse quickening. "He's at it again." She sighed but joined me at the window, her eyes widening as she peered through the glass. We saw everything, her back against the wall, his hands braced above her head, whispering something that made her laugh, then go quiet. He lifted her thigh, pulling her closer, deliberate, like he was playing a game he always won. Lila covered her mouth. "We shouldn't be watching this." I grinned, my voice sharp with excitement. Yet here we are. We stood frozen, pressed to the window like kids sneaking a look at something forbidden. He moved slow, like he'd done this 1,000 times, her reactions no surprise to him. She clung to him, head back, legs trembling, before he turned her, her hands gripping the window frame like it was her lifeline. Lila shifted. "Is that the same girl from last week?" "No," I said, eyes locked on the scene, counting in my head. "New one. 5th or 6th this month." Lila shook her head, but her gaze didn't waver. "This is insane," I whispered, voice low, conspiratorial. They walk in confident, all smiles, and leave like they've seen something they'll never forget. We watched, her tense mouth open, eyes glazed, lost in him. He barely moved, but whatever he was doing made her grip the frame like her body was betraying her. Lila turned away, flustered. "Okay, enough. I didn't budge. Don't tell me you're not curious." She sank onto the armrest, clutching her blanket. "I mean, he's impressive," I smirked. "He's a walking mystery. Late 50s, barely talks, never brags, yet every woman leaves his place like they've stepped out of a dream." Lila bit her lip. I leaned in. "I want to know what that's like." She laughed, nervous. "You're not serious." "Dead serious," I said. "Not tonight, but tomorrow I'm going over. Say hello. Introduce ourselves." Her eyes widened. What, knock on his door and ask for a sample? I grinned. "Maybe I'll borrow some sugar. Or offer to help move something heavy. Whatever works." Lila stood blanket tight. "You're out of your mind." "Admitted," I said. "You're wondering too." She didn't answer, just pulled the blanket tighter, looking away, but I saw the spark in her eyes. Morning came and his window was still in my head, a picture I couldn't shake, sharp and dangerous. I wasn't guilty. I was hungry, curious, wanting to know what made those women unravel. Lila acted like last night hadn't burned into her brain, curled up on the couch with cereal, pretending nothing happened. I leaned in the doorway, arms crossed. So I said, "Calm, I'm thinking now's the time." She didn't look up. "Time for what you know." She groaned, but I heard the crack in her voice. "You're seriously doing this, Nora, knocking on some guy's door because you liked what you saw. Not just what I saw. I said what we've been seeing over and over." Last night sealed it. Lila pulled her blanket over her head. "I'm not going." "You don't have to do anything," I said. "Just come with me. Back me up. Pretend we're borrowing something. She peeked out. Why do you need me there to stop me from going too far? I said, grinning, or push me to do something stupid. Either way, it'll be fun. She rolled her eyes but stood arms crossed tight, already giving in. I tossed her a hoodie. Minutes later, we crossed the street, my heart pounding not from nerves, but from the thrill of what might happen. I knocked once. The door creaked open, and there he was, barefoot shirt, half-buttoned hair, damp from a shower smelling faintly of soap and coffee. He looked at us, calm, unsurprised, like he'd been expecting us, like he knew exactly why we were there. His eyes flicked from me to Lila and back, slow measuring, like he was reading a book he'd already finished. Sorry for just showing up, I said, voice light, but sharp enough to cut through the quiet. We were out walking, thought we'd say hi. Lila stood behind me, arms crossed, hoodie pulled tight like she wanted to vanish. He nodded once. Good to meet you. Nora and Lila right across the street. His voice was low, steady, like he was stating a fact he'd known forever. I'm Jack. That was it, but the way he said it carried a weight, like he saw through our excuse and didn't care. He stepped aside. Come in. The house was warm, lit soft with morning light, the air heavy with coffee and faint music playing low like it had been on for hours. On the counter, 2 mugs, one full. I raised an eyebrow. Expecting someone? He shrugged. Just thought I might have company. I shot Lila a look. She pretended not to notice, hovering near the door, unsure, silent. You're not what I pictured, I said, sipping the coffee he handed me, feeling the warmth of the mug, the weight of his gaze. Neither are you, he said, smiling, his voice steady, like he was playing a game he always won. What did you picture? His eyes locked on mine, daring me to say it. People who watch like you do usually avoid eye contact the next day. Lila flinched. You saw us? She asked, voice small. He leaned back. Window's not a one-way mirror. I laughed, sharp, quick, like a spark catching fire. Fair enough. He sank onto the couch, arms spread, relaxed, like nothing could touch him. She can leave any time, he said, nodding at Lila, voice soft but firm, no pressure, just truth. She didn't move, eyes flicking between us, caught. I leaned against the couch across from him. You get a lot of fake excuses at your door. He looked at me, that same calm smile, like he knew every move before I made it. I leave the window open for a reason. My pulse jumped, but I didn't back down. I leaned closer, one leg crossing over his thigh, fingers resting light on his shoulder. He didn't move, just let his hand rest on my leg like he'd been waiting for me to make the first move. Lila's voice cut through, sharp, nervous. You're really doing this? I looked at her, still by the door. You act like I dragged you here. Leave or stay and admit you're not just here for me. She shook her head. He's a stranger, Nora. He's the guy who's got every woman in this neighborhood leaving like they forgot their own names, I said, including the one we watched last night. Jack's eyebrow lifted just enough to say he wasn't surprised. I try to make sure they don't forget me, he said, voice low like a promise. Lila flinched again, but her eyes stayed on him, trapped. I stood slow, deliberate, like I was stepping into a fire I wanted to burn in. I took her hand, feeling her pulse race under my fingers. You don't have to do anything, I said, soft, but don't kid yourself either. I led her forward step by step, right in front of him. He looked at her, calm, unreadable, then leaned in and kissed her. Lila exhaled a shaky breath, but after a heartbeat she leaned back, face flushed. I didn't hesitate. I stepped in, kissed him hard, deliberate, no guessing, making it clear what I wanted. His hands found my hips steady, sure like he'd mapped this out long before. I pulled back, reached for my dress hem, his eyes on me as I let it slip off like it wasn't the first time we'd done this with someone else. I moved closer, hands still on him, feeling every shift in his body, the tightening of his shoulders, the slight grip on the cushion. His breath changed, and I savored every second like I was pulling him apart. Behind me, something shifted. He looked past me, reached out. Lila stood there, clutching her dress like a shield caught between stepping forward and running. He nodded, silent, just a gesture, and she moved toward us, slow, cautious, but not resisting. He kissed her again, softer this time, her hands not pulling away. His hand slid to her neck, steadying her, while the other eased her dress off her shoulder. It fell silent, like a surrender, her breath following. I kept the rhythm, Lila beside me on the floor, still hesitant, until his touch guided her, calm, certain. Our hands brushed, both of us focused, moving toward the same purpose. She was slower, but bolder with each motion, her hesitation burning away. His head tilted back, and I knew we were getting somewhere. Then he spoke, voice low, steady. "Both of you stand up." We did together. He slid deeper into the couch, arms wide, inviting. I climbed onto him, slow, settling exactly where I needed to be, his lips grazing my skin, my hands gripping as he moved, focused, unhurried, endless. I tilted my head back, breathing through it, the world narrowing to his touch. Lila knelt beside us, picking up where I left off, her hands finding their rhythm, growing bolder as I guided her. We moved together, a shared purpose, his attention never wavering, each motion building on the last, sending waves through me. My legs tightened, every inch of me taut, my balance faltering. But I didn't want him to stop, not when he was this close to breaking me. Then Lila gasped, sharp, as his hand touched her, urging her to stand. She did, and he guided her into his lap, his hands firm on her waist. I stepped back, running a hand along her spine as she settled over him, eyes closed, letting gravity take over. She moved slow at first, adjusting his hands, steadying her, one on her back, the other on her hip. Her breath grew uneven, focused, her hands gripping his shoulders for balance as her movement strengthened. Her body tensed, head falling against him, back arching just enough to show us everything. She didn't speak, she didn't need to. He held her a moment longer, then lifted her, carrying her to the cushions, lowering her carefully. Then he turned to me. I was ready, turning away, breath already shallow. He stepped behind me, hands gripping, pulling us into a rhythm with no hesitation, steady but relentless. Lila lay nearby, watching through half-closed eyes, chest rising and falling. I smiled at her, then gasped as the pressure shifted, my hands clutching the couch to stay grounded. He knew exactly where to go, how to keep me on the edge, each motion pulling me deeper. My back arched, everything inside surging, hitting hard and clean, shaking through me. I leaned forward, eyes half shut, caught in the rhythm he held, never slowing. He turned to Lila, lifting her gently, placing her back on the cushions. She had a second before he moved into her, faster this time, her body rising to meet him, hands gripping the cushions, breath breaking. I knelt beside them, brushing sweat from her brow, kissing her shoulder, his chest holding her hand as she moved with him, faster, stronger. Her reactions sharpened, each moment building relentless. I watched, stunned by his focus, his stamina, like he could go forever, and part of me believed he could. Finally, he exhaled low into her neck, reaching his limit. Lila lay still, chest heaving, spent. I curled beside them, brushing hair from her face, my body still trembling. I leaned in, whispered, smiling. "Still think this was a bad idea, so tell me, if two women showed up at your door like this, what would you do? Be honest. Drop it in the comments. I read them all. Like, subscribe, hit the bell. More's coming. Thanks for being here.